Hi, it's Laurel here, and welcome to day 5, the final day of the masterclass. Before we start, I just want to say if you've been here all 5 days, well done. Not because showing up to a masterclass is some huge achievement, but because most people don't finish things. We live in a world obsessed with more ideas, more starts, more tabs open. Finishing is rarer than starting, and you're here at the end. That tells me something about you. So today, look at the subtitle on this slide because it's the whole session in 2 lines. You don't need to know what's next. You need a question you can answer and a decision you can make today. That's where we're going. Today I'm going to take 4 things off your plate, 4 things you've been told you need before you can move, and replace them with the one thing you actually do need. Your day creates your life. Let's design one. Most people don't design their life. They drift into it and end up somewhere they didn't choose. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to live on autopilot. It happens gradually. Life gets busy, responsibilities grow, the days start to blur together. You inherit a life from expectations, from opportunities, from momentum. You build a career, you build routines, you build responsibilities, but you rarely pause long enough to ask the deeper question, what is my life actually optimized for? And here's what I want you to hear, because we established this on day 4 and it still holds. Nothing has gone wrong. Drift isn't a character flaw, it's just unconscious living. And the moment you see it clearly, which if you've been here all week, you now do, you regain the ability to design. The problem was never a lack of ambition. You can be motivated, disciplined, and hardworking and still build a life that doesn't feel right. Because effort without direction creates progress in the wrong direction. Today we fix the direction. Here's a quick recap of where we've been, because day 4 set up everything we're doing today. Yesterday we looked at patterns and 3 things we landed on. Nothing has gone wrong. You're running a script you didn't choose. Your patterns aren't random. They're feeding a need, safety, certainty, and protection from failure. And the big one, you act your way out. You don't think it. You don't break a pattern by understanding it. You break it by moving. So if yesterday was awareness, today is the moving. Because awareness on its own is just a more informed way of standing still. Insight without action changes nothing. Today is about the 4 things you've been waiting for that you don't actually need and the one thing you do. But before we get into today's teaching, I want to show you something. Everything this week is built on, every idea, every framework exists in written form in the Balanced Library. I'm going to move through it quickly because each one of these is an area of your life we can work on. Watch how much ground this method covers. What archetype are you? 5 stages of intentional living from your reset, explorer to architect. The question isn't what type am I, it's where am I and what comes next. Live on purpose, not on autopilot. Nobody decides to live on autopilot. It happens gradually. This is the wake up. The old systems are breaking. We have more tools than ever, and people have never felt more lost. We need a new operating system for being human. Freedom or victimhood, there comes a moment where you decide who you're going to be, not who your past shaped you into, who you choose to be now. Start with you. For things to change, you need to change. Real change rarely starts outside of you. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Every life moves in the direction of its focus, not its intentions, its focus. No more gurus for generations. Leadership was external. The new era requires self-leadership. How willing are you to change? Each day is a new beginning. Most people wake up and step straight back into yesterday. You don't have to. Wake up with pure positive energy. The first moments of your day set the tone for everything that follows. The benefits of daily meditation, the simplest practice with the strongest evidence, a few minutes a day and your mind starts working for you. Mindful intentional ambition, there's a way to grow without burning out, rooted in purpose, sustainability and self-trust. Next play mentality, miss a shot, next play, you don't stop the game to replay what already happened. Obsession to habit, what fires together, wires together, how change goes from intense to effortless. How gratitude can change your life is dismissed as soft, but it's actually one of the most powerful tools for well-being, and it costs nothing. Failure is the path to success. Every failure is a lesson. Every lesson is progress. The only real failure is not trying. Grit is fit. Grit isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, like a muscle. To change your results, change your state. Most people don't fail from lack of discipline. They ask the right questions in the wrong state. Nature therapy. Nature isn't a luxury, it's a biological requirement. Nutrition and breathing, two of the most powerful levers for how you feel, are the simplest ones: what you eat and how you breathe. Boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges. Resentment, exhaustion, and anxiety are the signals you're missing them. Choose kindness. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. Choose kindness anyway. The power of desire. Desire isn't a problem, it's a compass. Write a letter to your future self, an act of belief in who you're becoming. Bring your spark back. Your spark isn't gone, it's just buried under too much should. Spirituality and science. Science describes the mechanism, spirituality describes the meaning. Both can be true. Trajectory over position. A ship in the right direction eventually arrives. A ship going in circles never will. Systems versus goals. Goals are for direction, systems are for progress. Purpose isn't found, it's built. You don't have one purpose, you have many. And we'll come back to this one today. The science of purpose. Purpose isn't a luxury, it's psychological infrastructure. How to design your life intentionally. Most people inherit their life from expectations, opportunities, and momentum. This is how you design it instead. Momentum towards your dream. The challenge isn't that you don't know enough, it's that you've stopped trusting what you already know. The science of momentum. Momentum is created through action, not planning. Taking the first step changes everything. Stop starting, start finishing. We live in a world obsessed with more. Too many options are the very thing keeping us stuck. The Balance Method: 7 small daily shifts backed by science that compound into lasting change. What is a daily reset? Most people don't start their day, they react to it. The Balanced Daily Loop changes that. Why the most successful people don't give up. They're not the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who keep going when progress feels invisible. The 7 S's of balance, 7 principles, 1 compass for when life feels chaotic. What we can all learn from 12-step programs. Behind them is something for all of us: self-awareness, accountability, and connection. And 26 things I've learned in 2026. The learnings that made this year lighter, more grounded, more intentional. Now, why did I just show you all of that? Not to give you a reading list, because every single one of these is an area of your life. Mind, body, relationships, purpose, it's all in there. And if you work with me, you'll be getting exercises to work on each of these areas inside your 90-day challenge, 12 weeks, one-to-one, working through these and more applied to your life. Not in theory. Hold that thought. I'll show you exactly how at the end. So the first thing you don't need to know what's next. If you've ever stood at the end of something, a job, a degree, a relationship, a chapter, you know the question, what's next? It sounds like an inquiry, it feels like one, but notice what happens when you try to answer it. Nothing. You sit with it, you stare at the ceiling, you scroll. You ask friends, you read books, you take walks, you wait for clarity to arrive. The way weather arrives, it doesn't, and here's why. What's next isn't really a question, it's a fog. And you can't answer a fog, you can only stand inside one. Vagueness inflates anxiety, specificity shrinks it. Your brain processes a vague worry as 1,000 unsolvable problems at once. It processes a specific worry as one problem with a deadline. Same situation, completely different weight. So here's the practice. You cut the question until it fits on a post-it. Watch what happens. What am I doing with my life? Fog. There's nothing to decide here. Nothing to move. It will loop forever. What am I doing with this summer? Still fog. It sounds specific because it's got a date on it, but you can't do it. The summer isn't one decision, it's 100 small ones. Do I want to spend this summer building something, resting, or exploring? Closer. Now there's a question with answerable options, but still big. This week, do I want to start the book I've been thinking about, plan the trip, sign up for the workshop, or block off real rest time before I decide anything? There it is. That's a post-it. You can answer it. You can move on it. Notice what happened. What am I doing with my life? And should I block off rest time this week? Are technically about the same thing, your life. But one is unanswerable and the other gets done by Friday. Now, your mind will resist this. It will say, but the small question isn't important enough. I need to figure out the big thing first. That's the loop talking. The loop survives on size. Specific questions starve it. What's the fog question that's been looping for you? Just name it. You don't need to solve it right now. Naming it is the first step. And while we're clearing fog, you don't need to find your passion either. Passion is its own kind of fog. It promises that somewhere out there is a singular calling and your job is to find it. If you don't, you've failed, you've wasted your time. If you do, congratulations, you've arrived. Either way, your worth is on the line. That's a lot to put on one word. So I want to offer a different question. Not what's my passion, but what adds value to my life? What makes time stop for you? What genuinely fills you with light, excitement, appreciation? Is it creativity, movement, being around people who think out loud, working with your hands, long conversations, solitude, cooking for someone, walking somewhere new? You probably already know, you just haven't been counting it as enough. Because we've been taught that whatever lights us up has to scale into a career, a calling, an identity, or it doesn't count. So we dismiss the things that quietly make us us and keep searching for some bigger thing that's supposed to make sense of everything. But the bigger thing isn't out there waiting. It's already in motion every time you do what fills you up. A life isn't built on one passion, it's built on 100 small returns to what makes you feel alive. So instead of finding your passion, follow what feels like more of you, more often. The second thing you don't need to be ready. One of the questions I get asked surprisingly often is this: how do I do the things I know I should be doing, but they feel like too much, even though I know they'd bring a big reward if I just started? At first glance, that sounds like a productivity problem. It rarely is. It's an emotional one. The things that feel like too much are rarely too much because they're difficult. They feel heavy because of the meaning we've attached to them. Expectation, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discovering we might not be as capable as we hoped. And sometimes the opposite fear appears too, the fear of what it would mean if it actually worked. So instead of starting, we wait. We tell ourselves we'll begin when we feel clearer, more confident, more prepared, when we feel ready. But the longer we wait, the heavier the thing becomes. Ideas gather pressure, dreams turn into obligations. So here's the shift. Stop trying to feel ready. Readiness is mostly a myth, or at least it almost never arrives before the action. It arrives because of the action. You don't suddenly feel capable and then begin. You begin and slowly start to feel capable. Confidence is rarely the cause of action. It's the result of it. And the strategy is surprisingly simple. Make the step smaller than your resistance. Not write the proposal. Open the document and write one line. Your brain can't argue with something that small. One more layer on this, because it changes how the action feels, and how it feels decides whether you keep going. The same action can feel completely different depending on the state you bring to it. Bring tension, pressure, self-doubt, force, and it feels like struggle. Bring energy, curiosity, playfulness, presence, and the identical task feels like momentum. The task is identical, the state decides. And your state isn't a mystery. It's your physiology, how you're breathing, how you're moving, the tension in your body. When your nervous system is stressed, focus drops, creativity drops, decision-making weakens. Your brain moves into survival mode. Change the physiology and the brain chemistry changes with it. This is why movement precedes clarity. Action changes your state. Your state changes your thinking, not the other way around. So before the hard thing this week, don't psych yourself up. Stand up, breathe, move. Then take the one small step. Every completed step sends a signal to your brain, I am someone who moves forward. Repeated often enough, that identity becomes real. The third thing you don't need to find your purpose. One of the most stressful questions intelligent people ask themselves is, what's my purpose? And I want to take the pressure off because the question is built on a false premise. Purpose isn't a single destination hidden somewhere waiting for you to trip over it. You don't have one purpose, you have many. And purpose isn't found, it's built. Through daily decisions not discovered in a moment of overthinking. Purpose is psychological infrastructure. Decades of research say the same thing. Humans don't thrive on comfort alone, we thrive on direction. Purpose is strongly linked to life satisfaction, resilience, even physical health, because it answers the question, why am I doing this when things get hard? And it's built from 3 layers. You can see them on the slide. Identity, who you're becoming, not what you do, the person you want to be known as. Clarity about identity reduces decision fatigue because most decisions answer themselves once you know who's deciding. Growth, how you're expanding, physically, emotionally, intellectually. When growth stops, stagnation begins. Forward momentum builds self-trust, and self-trust builds confidence. Contribution, who benefits from your growth, where your strength ease someone's struggle. This is what turns ambition into meaning. Achievement without contribution feels empty. Purpose is a direction, not a destination. And I love Tony Robbins' line on this: if you're in your head, you're dead. If you're in your heart, you're smart. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from acting more intentionally. You can feel overwhelmed and still take aligned action. You can feel afraid and still move forward. Your actions define your life, not your feelings. The fourth thing you don't need, and this one might be the most important, you don't need to be somewhere else first. You can only grow from where you are, not from where you wish you were. We make so many decisions from an imaginary version of ourselves, the future self, with more energy, more time, more money, more confidence. And when you decide from there, you overcommit. You set expectations your real life can't hold. You stall and then blame yourself for stalling. Decide from here instead, honest about your energy, honest about your capacity, honest about your reality. Ask yourself, how am I really feeling right now? What's my actual energy? What resources do I truly have? What are my current constraints? Honesty here is power. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's starting right. And then from that honest place, what's one step I can take from here? Small, grounded steps beat grand, disconnected leaps every time. Trajectory over position. Judge yourself by whether you're moving, not where you are. A ship in the right direction will eventually arrive. A ship going in circles never will. Decide from here, not from there. And here's what all four of these collapse into. The one thing you do need: decisions move your life, not goals. Everyone has goals. Goals are for direction. They tell you where you want to go, but they don't move anything. Look at the chain on the slide. Decision, row action, system, row habit, row identity. Every life is the sum of thousands of small decisions. Decisions become actions. Actions repeated become systems. Systems become habits. And habits become who you are. That's why you don't need to know what's next, or find your passion, or feel ready, or locate your purpose. Every one of those is a someday requirement. A decision is a today one. So what are you deciding today? Let's pause. This is not rhetorical. I want you to actually do this. Take 30 seconds. Look across the four pillars: mind, body, relationships, purpose, and ask yourself one question: what needs my attention first? Not everything, not the full redesign. One word is enough: mind, body, relationships, purpose. Everyone's answer is different, and every answer is right. That's the whole point of designing from here. So what are you actually building toward? Because I want to be honest about the destination before I show you the path. Not constant happiness. Nobody lives permanently in joy, clarity, confidence, and flow. And chasing that is its own kind of trap. The new car, the promotion, the milestone, the thrill fades, we adapt. That's just how humans are wired. What you're building is a life that's alive. Flourishing isn't feeling good all the time. It's living with energy, purpose, connection, and growth across mind, body, relationships, and purpose. It's less about occasional breakthroughs and more about consistent daily choices. How you start the day, how you care for your body, how you connect, where you point your attention. Days compound into weeks, weeks into years, and years into the life you experience. It's built one ordinary day at a time, which means it's available to you today, not after the reinvention, not once everything's sorted, today. One more pause, and this is the one that matters most because it's the last one of the masterclass. What will you do next to create lasting change? And remember everything from today. Make it a post-it, not a fog. Make it smaller than your resistance. Decide it from here, not from there. Hold on to your answer, because the next slide is about exactly that. So the path from here. 5 days is a beginning, not an ending, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I taught you that decisions move your life and then didn't give you a decision to make. There are 3 ways to keep moving with balance depending on where you are and what you need. Self-led Balance OS plus the Balance Lab. This is the doorway in, the daily reset practice, the essays, the community, the tools, everything to keep this work alive in your ordinary days. From £55 a year. If today's session resonated and you want to keep going at your own pace, this is yours. Start where you are, the Clarity Reset. 1 90-minute session with me. We look honestly at where you're drifting, what to change first, and you leave with an action plan to get you on track. It's £250, 1 session, 1 honest look, 1 clear next step. Go all in, the Balance Journey. 12 weeks one-to-one with me, plus a year in Balance OS and the Balance Lab. We go through the whole method: drift, reset, design, systems alignment, applied to your actual life with me beside you the whole way. £1,800. And if you're not sure which is yours, that's exactly what the call is for. Genuinely, some of my best conversations this year started with, I don't know if this is for me. Here's the truth underneath all of it, the last teaching of the week. You build certainty by beginning. You don't need the whole path, just the next step. Everything today pointed here. You don't get ready and then act, you act, and readiness follows. You don't find clarity and then move, you move, and clarity appears. So if part of you is waiting to feel certain before you take the next step with this work, that certainty is on the other side of the step, not before it. So here's my one invitation. Book a free 20-minute fit call with me. One honest conversation. We'll find the right starting point together. No pressure, no pitch. If the right answer is the £55 self-led route, I'll tell you that. If the right answer is you don't need any of this yet, I'll tell you that too. The link is on the screen and going in the chat now, balance.ai/offer. Open it now while we're together. You know what I'd say about waiting until you feel ready. Let's land this. 5 days ago, we started with drift, the slow, invisible way smart people end up living lives they didn't design. Nothing had gone wrong. You were just running a script you didn't choose. And now you know the way out. Not a new identity, not a reinvention, recalibration. You don't need to know what's next. You need a question that fits on a post-it. You don't need to find your passion. You need 100 small returns to what makes you feel alive. You don't need to be ready. You need a step smaller than your resistance. You don't need to find your purpose. You need to build it, one decision at a time. Your day creates your life. Decide from here. Start today. Thank you for 5 days of your attention. It's the most valuable thing you have, and you spent it here. I don't take that lightly. I'll see you in the calls, in the lab, and in your inbox tomorrow morning for the daily reset. Go and make one decision.